Hi there, welcome to your third lesson. This is our second groundwork lesson, and I am here again with my little baby Esprit, and she's going to help demonstrate the concept of giving when I put pressure on her head and neck, and then moving away from the pressure from my hand, my whip, or if I'm riding her, my leg. So she's gonna move her body away from pressure. She's gonna follow pressure with her head and her neck. So the first thing that I wanna teach my horse in order to get this concept is to put her head down. Now she's putting her head down because she's curious and looking for food. But I want her to put her head down when I just put a little bit of pressure on the rope, and she should follow that pressure down. So before you move forward with any of these other exercises, make sure that your horse is agreeable to that head down with just a little bit of easy pressure. A lot of times what happens when you start teaching your horse head down, especially if they're older, it's usually a little bit easier with younger horses. They're usually a little bit more instinctual and follow a little bit easier. But sometimes if you have an older horse that you're working with, it's a little bit set in their ways. A lot of times if you pull down on the rope, they tighten their neck and pull up and go against the pressure. So we want to teach them that the right answer is to follow the pressure, not go against it. So if you're having trouble asking your horse to put their head down, you're going to put the pressure down on the rope, and you're going to, as best you can, hang in there, keep pulling down. If you need to, you can put your fingers on top of their pole and add a little bit more pressure up here to get them to put their head down. Now, Esprit is doing a really good job of putting her head way down. If you're having that trouble with your horse where they're tight and they really just don't want to listen to that, as soon as you feel any little teeny bit of give from your horse, let that pressure go so that they start to understand that you'll stop pulling and pushing as soon as they start getting that correct answer, which is head down. And then you can start asking for a little bit more and a little bit more until all you have to do is a little bit of pressure. Head goes all the way down. One other thing that I like to teach my horses, and this is a little bit of a trick, is I like to teach them that when I press on the base of their neck, right here where their neck attaches to their shoulder, that I want them to put their head down. So the way that I teach them that, and again, trick training, is you would give them a cue first, which when you first do this, they're not going to know what that cue is or what it means. So what the cue is I'm going to push on the base of her neck. What I want her to do is to put her head down. And I've already taught her to follow the pressure of the rope down. So first, I'm going to give her the cue, press on her neck, and then tell her when I press on her neck, I want her to put her head down. As soon as she put that head down, the pressure on her neck and the pressure from the rope went away. And I'm just going to repeat that as many times as I need to until all I have to do is push on her neck. So we'll see if we can get her to demonstrate it really well. Just press on the base of the neck and she puts her head down. So she knows that's her first trick that she learned. So it's not an overly impressive trick, but it's a good way to start your trick training, remembering that you give them the cue. Then you need to tell them what that cue means by giving them the practical example with the pressure. And then you practice it enough until they understand what the cue means. Now the reason I teach my horses to put their heads down like this is because when a horse's head is down nice and low, it means they're relaxed, their heart rate is low. So if you're ever in a situation where your horse is anxious or upset, say you go to a horse show or you're going to a clinic, it's a new setting, there's a lot of horses there, a lot of activity that your horse isn't used to, you can teach your horse this little relax button so that they put their head down. You're going to encourage them to keep it down there long enough so that that heart rate goes down a little bit and they can start to relax and listen a little better, and then they can learn. Okay? So once you've taught your horse to put their head down, I like to teach my horse to back away from the pressure of the rope. So I'm going to stand in front of my horse and I'm going to put a little bit of backward pressure on her so she follows that pressure backwards. And she did pretty good. Now the reason I teach my horse to back up, not only because when she gets a little older and she's practicing more upper level dressage, she's going to be required to back up with me on her to perform a rein back. Okay, so that's one reason. But the main reason why I'm teaching her this right now is because our horses are naturally heavy on their two front feet. But because we want them to be good riding horses, we want to get used to us being on their back and strong enough to carry us, we want to teach them to shift some of that weight to their hind leg. So I'm just going to move her a little bit on an angle here so you can see that when she backs up, that weight shifts to the hind leg. Okay? And another reason why I want to teach her to back up is because one of the horse's main evasions, usually is the number one go-to evasion for any horse. If you're asking them to do something that they don't really want to do, or they just want to be lazy about it, they get heavy on the forehand and they try to kind of plow through it. When you're doing your groundwork, they may try to run over the top of you. All right, so we want to be able to use that little bit of rein back to correct that. Get that weight back on the hind leg so that their front end is nice and light and we can control those shoulders. Okay, so now we've got the head down, a little bit of rein back. I'm going to go back over to Espree's left side, and now I want her to follow my pressure to sideways. So I want her to flex her head and turn towards me. So I like to start by just taking a hold of their halter and gently pulling her head towards me. Okay, so Espree's pretty good about it. It was a very nice light contact that I used. Again, if you have an older horse who will set in their ways, they may try to pull away from your pressure. When you take pressure left, they may try to pull their head over to the right. So you're just going to add more pressure, as much pressure as you need, until you start to feel that horse gives you. So you saw that time Espree actually did put a little bit of pressure over to the right, and she tried to back up and avoid following my hand, but eventually she softened and gave, and I took my hand away. So just making sure she understands, when I pull your head over, I want you to follow that pull, and when you do, I will let go of the pressure. And notice also, flexing your horse from side to side also encourages that neck down. So if you need that to get your horse to relax, another good way to get that horse's neck down so they start to relax a little bit. So once they're good that way, I'm going to put a little pressure so she gets it focused back on me. I'm going to take the rope, the length of her neck, and I'm going to put my hand right where that relax button is that we taught her about. Okay, and I'm just going to take a little bit of pressure and see if she'll follow. So I'm going to back her up. So there you see she did exactly what I mentioned earlier. She leaned onto the forehand and leaned into the pressure instead of following it. So I'm going to try that again and ask her, and I'm going to keep the pressure good until she gives. And then she gave me a really nice stretch. She thinks I should probably give her a cookie. There's no cookie, or maybe an itch. Okay, so we'll try that again. I'm going to ask her to follow the pressure of the rope and stretch. Good. And as soon as she does, I let it go. All right, something's out that back door. All right, once we get it down really nice, on the left side, we're going to move over to the right. We talked about this in the first groundwork lesson. If your horse is stronger on their left side, remember you're going to teach them everything over there first and then move over to this side. So we're going to see if Espree will follow me to the right. So she knows what we're doing. We've already established the concept of this lesson on the left. So when I ask her on the right, it's easy. She is a little bit focused on getting a cookie as her reward instead of just the release of pressure. When I do this exercise, I don't do treat training. Their reward is that the pressure goes away. So here she's going a little bit against me and moving her feet. So I'm just going to keep asking. Stop. And then I'm going to use that back up to get her weight off of her shoulders. And then flex again. Then she gives me the right answer. So whenever she gives me the wrong answer, I keep her moving. I can make that correction with that little rein back. And I keep asking for what I want until I get it. And then she can stop. And then the pressure goes away. Right? So head down. Rein back, flexion back and right and left. When she's really good at the flexion right and left, doing it directly from each side, then you can put the rope on the opposite side of her and stand back by her shoulder. And I'm going to put my hand up more closer to where it would be if I were riding her. And I'm going to pull on that rope and ask her to follow the pressure over to the right. As soon as she does, pressure goes away. I let it go. Notice her head comes down and she relaxes. And I'm going to Put the rope over on this side and try the same thing over here. So this is a really good lesson to teach your horse. If you have a young horse that you're just bringing up and planning on backing, these are all lessons that they should learn before you even think about getting on their back, okay? And they should be really good at all of that. All right, so the next thing we want, now that she's gotten the idea of following the pressure with her head and her neck, I want her to learn that she's got to move away from the pressure of either my whip or my hand, okay? If I were on her, she'd have to move away from the pressure of my leg. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to combine the flexion with trying to push her hind leg under, and I'm going to push on her side so she moves away from the pressure of my hand, and she's going to cross her left hind leg under and start turning around like this. So I'm looking for this left hind leg to cross under. And at the same time, I want her neck to be bending and her shoulders to be soft. All right, so I'm going to try this. I'm going to hold my whip. I'm not going to use it, but I'm going to hold it just in case I need it. You might need it with your horse. Again, if your horse is a little bit older and they're just learning this, a little bit set in their ways, you may need a little bit extra pressure from your whip to get that hind leg to actually cross under, okay? So flexion, again, take my right hand. I'm going to give a kiss that she knows that means from our first lesson. We got to go when she hears that kiss, push on her side so she moves, and we're looking for that left hind leg to cross under and under and under. And notice Espree's neck is soft, her shoulders are light, and her head is nicely flexed towards me. Okay, so if you're just teaching your horse this for the first time, you don't have to ask them to go all the way around the circle like Espree did. She did very well because she knows this exercise, and she knows when she gets it right, I'll let her stop. But when you're first teaching the horse, all I do is ask them for maybe 3 really good steps. So if she were new to this, I would ask her to flex, push, give her that kiss and push, 2, 3 good steps. And then I would let her stop. Because a lot of times what happens when you teach a horse this, again, they're evasive and they try to say no at first. And it's at these very first groundwork lessons that we're trying to get them to come up with the right answer, the yes answer, instead of the no answer. So if they give you a good try and give you a couple of correct steps, then you let them stop so that they know that they get it right, you're going to let them have a rest. And we all know that resting is one of their #1 favorite things to do after eating, okay? So once they've gotten this exercise down on the left side, again, you would move over to the right and try it on the other side. I'm going to take the rope back over this side. I'll move her over here so you can see a little bit better. I'm going to flex her, again, the rope, the length of her neck, my hand's right at the base of her neck where her neck meets her shoulder. Give that kiss so she knows to move her feet. We're looking for that right hind leg, cross under, cross under, cross under. She did a good job. She kept her neck soft and bending. She was light on the shoulder. I let her stop. Some common problems that you might run into is when you ask the horse to move that hind leg, they might be a little bit stiff or maybe just plain lazy, and they're going to kind of just shuffle like this. You don't want to let them stop until you get that nice crossover, okay? So if you're having a little bit of a hard time and you're getting lots of shuffles, and then you get one good crossover, maybe you stop there, give them a little break, and then try again. And then your goal is to be able to get your horse so cooperative with this exercise that you can do it and do a full rotation around each direction. One of the really great benefits to this exercise, well, more than one benefit, is they get nice and flexible through their body, strengthens their hind leg, but the most important benefit that I like, the reason I like to teach them that is because it gets their body bending and relaxed, okay? So if you practice this exercise along with your flexion, get the hind leg crossing, their body bends, encourages the head and neck down, they get really good at it. It's a really reliable exercise that you can do with your horse, so that again, if you go to a horse show or a clinic or something just unusual is happening at your farm when you're trying to work your horse, you can use that exercise to help your horse get themselves in a physical state that relaxes them, and then their mind will follow, and then you've got a horse that can pay attention to you. Okay, so you're going to try all those different exercises, add it in to your whoa and go exercises and your speed control exercises. Then when your horse is really good at it, you're just going to challenge yourself to see if you can move your horse from side to side with that exercise, so that we add a little bit of fluidity to this. Okay, so your challenge today is going to be to ask your horse to take a step back, then flex, do a couple of steps, under, and then you're going to walk a little bit backwards, have your horse move towards you, and then go right into the back up, see, to get that horse off the forehand, and then go to the other side. And you're just going to keep repeating this exercise until you can get her to do it in a nice light way, that those feet keep moving, and we do it with a little bit of fluidity. So not only are we getting good strength and flexibility, but starting to think about fluid movement. This is kind of, I like to think of as the horse version of their yoga. You do yoga, your sun salutation. Think of it this way. We're just flowing from backing up to flexing to turning, walking forward, backing up, flex, turn, until your horse feels nice and light and easy to move. So that's your challenge. Give it a try. If you like today's lesson, please give me a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed already, hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to go over to my website and print off the notes for today's lesson, and then head on over to the barn and have fun horsing around. Thanks for watching.